in a Dev Days conference, Lithuania, with Koray.
Yeah,
I have to connect with.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm here because I saw he's speaking about GitOps. GitOps is a topic that's close to my heart, and I'll be happy to hear from you. Do you think GitOps bring a good experience to developer, or?
Yeah, I think it does. It is easier to manage your applications or maybe infrastructure. I mean, depending on how you use Kubernetes, it makes it easier with just a PR to manage it. But of course, you need to have the organizational maturity with the infrastructure as a code type of thing, maybe, or if you are already containerize your applications or other stuff. But simply if you're running your workloads on Kubernetes, I think GitOps is a way to go with easier of usage, and also I think it's more secure than using it with traditional pipelines in some other ways. Of course, there's no such thing called 100% security, but I would say it's more secure.
Yeah. So now, after you represent the topic that you are going to talk about, I'll be happy if you can introduce yourself.
So my name is Koray. I work for a company called Kubernetes. We have Kubernetes automation software, I would say. We also do consultancy and trainings. I am CNCF Ambassador and also Kubernetes contributor on K8s infra. So basically, I'm kind of DevOps engineer for the Kubernetes project itself. I mean, for the last 5-6 years, I'm on the cloud side, mainly working with Kubernetes and also the other tools in the CNCF landscape, which is a huge one.
That sounds great, and kudos being involved in a community in this way of advocacy. I'm a co-maintainer of a tool that's doing GitOps for policy as code called OPAL, Open Policy Administration Layer. And from what I experienced, GitOps indeed is great to ensure security, to create confidence in our deliveries. But at some form, developers complaining about the experience. They don't know where the delivery goes. They're not sure. They are afraid to deliver because it's initiate long pipeline. How do you balance between the benefits of GitOps to the experience that you give to the developers?
The developers have, or different type of developers, some of them are actually like to do some sort of administration on Kubernetes side, maybe not the whole cluster administration, but they actually want to log in, check their logs from the pods, containers, maybe do some restarts, etc., or manual changes. But some of them do not want to touch it at all. They just want to push their code and just get a message or some notification that it is running on production or from their test system at that moment.
Right.
So it also, I think, just like any other IT question, it depends on the organization and how you run the things, or the maybe company culture or organizational culture. But I think it is important to maybe show things to the people, how it works, what it does, and also it's about permissions. And then with GitOps, maybe not many people need to log into the cluster, but at that point you can provide some read-only access so that they can actually see what was changed on the cluster itself. That is also another possibility. But I think this is a little bit about how they feel more comfortable. And maybe it's also a bit about communication within the or between other teams, depending again the structure of that company.
Yeah, I think communication is everything about a good experience for developers. You mentioned permissions in regards to GitOps, and I also personally think that GitOps is a great enabler of permissions. Can you elaborate on that, on models, on...
Yeah. So, I mean, simply with GitOps, basically there is some other application or maintaining application running inside your Kubernetes cluster, and then it pulls the changes from your Git repository or repositories, or depending on how you configure them, so that a person do not need to log into the cluster, make changes to different actions to, I don't know, restart or rollback or whatever needs to do. This also goes with the pipelines itself. So you can also argue that, yeah, we can have the GitHub actions to deploy the application with kubectl or some other different base, but then you are providing some credentials to a third party. I'm not saying that GitHub is, of course you can trust them or there's something, but in the end there will be some credentials somewhere which is not in your organization. You just provide them to a third party. So also in that sense it would be more secure, and then things will be just working out without manual interaction. I think that's one of the most important things, because when you do manual tweaks, manual changes on the system, you forget about it, or you do it on task but don't do it on production, and different problems arise afterwards. So in that sort of environment with GitOps, you can just provide some read-only access to the cluster. So if the developers or other people wants to see how things are working, you can do it, but do not let them to change things inside the cluster. I think that's the main idea.
I think you made a great point about the continuous manner of permission, continuous manner of deployment and stuff like that. So actually GitOps is the basic of the continuous deployment. Do you think that the permission also became more dynamic along the years?
Yeah. I mean, in the end, it's also about what you will be changing inside the cluster, right? So if you are providing some cluster admin, I mean, this is mostly what we do, right? If we want to give someone access to the cluster, we just give the cluster admin and say, like, I do whatever we want. But then you know that with GitOps, that repository is only going to create some deployments, services, ingresses, and that's it, maybe, nothing more. So you can actually just make sure that only those permissions are given. Yeah, but I mean, for the Argo CD or Flux or whatever tool you are using, and then they can make those type of changes inside your cluster.
Yeah,
and also you make it centralized so that if you do it once in one cluster, it would probably work on the other clusters as well. We do it the same setup, so you won't need to worry too much about different configurations per cluster.
Yeah, that sounds very interesting. That's a refreshing point that I saw. So thank you for your wisdom, and good luck with your talk.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.